just so you know that that's what I've done. Hello, we're recording. I'm doing me bits and bobs as we get people in. So welcome. We've got one more week to go before I take a break. So there'll be no session on Thursday the 21st. I hope I've got that correct. It's the week commencing the 18th. So 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st. Yeah, okay. So just make a note in your diary or calendar or notebook, just so that you know that we won't be here on that Thursday evening, 21st. Right, let's get moving. We're going to do a mix of Daoyin and Qigong movements for the first half, and then we'll carry on with this little sun style form of parcels and single whips and wave hands and things like that. Okay, let's get moving. Okay, let's start off. We're going to be using tables later on. So let's imagine we've got a table in front of us, okay? And we're just going to turn our waist and just brush, first of all, the surface of that table. I'm just building you up into this wave hands movement. So really feel as if you've got a beautiful wooden table with a lovely textured surface. You might have something in mind. So just give that a few little passes and then swap hands. Again, we're turning the waist, so it's as much about the waist or the hips and shoulders turning as anything. The hand barely moves at all, really. Excellent. And then we're going to place our hand on an imaginary curtain or fabric draped in front of us. If you can turn to the side, I'm just there, just reaching out and touching fabric. And I'm just doing the same. I'm just turning a little bit and brushing that fabric with the surface of my palm and finger pads from side to side. Simple. And then let's bring up the other hand and do the same. Just turning the hips and shoulders and letting the hand brush the fabric. Very simple. Okay. Table. There's our table. Let's pick a hand. Left hand for our table. Right hand for our fabric. So we just do the same thing. We brush to the right because the right hand's on top, and then we swap hands. They simply swap places, and we brush our fabric and table back to the left. And we simply swap hands, and now we're doing sun style wave hands. Just as a nice, easy little movement to get ourselves going. And we just go from one side to the other, swapping hands at either side. And the golden rule, as ever with wave hands, is whichever hand comes on top, that's the direction we move. Left for left and right for right. Okay. Have a little rest, maybe move a little bit. So again, we're going to come back to that movement, but I thought I'd get it in early. And now we're going to find our right hand, but this time it's facing in. We've got a face mirror in that hand. We're looking or gazing into that mirror. I'm finding my tabletop. So there's my tabletop with my left hand. And then I'm just turning my head as it follows the hand out to the side. This is my right hand in this case. And then I bring my hand back, follow with the head, and then slide the hands past one another. And then I begin to take the left hand out. And it's all about head and neck. I'm keeping my shoulders pretty much square on. And I'm just swapping from one side to the other. Each transition is a slide of the hands past one another. Just like so. It's a nice mobilizer for shoulders, head and neck. We're going to do one more. Just like so, and then relax. Again, just have a little movement break. Okay, let's open the movements up a bit. So let's do parting the earth from the sky, holding a ball like a beach ball. Again, make sure there's some room between you and that ball. Bring that bottom hand, again, let me turn, bottom hand comes up over the top, turns over, and then we're pressing up and down, creating an S shape, and then turning the palms, bringing them back together until we hold our beach ball. Bottom hand comes up, turns over, once again, form that S shape, turn the palms back together. Could be a breath in as we expand and push the palms apart, and then a nice easy breath out if you wish. Could be a breath in each time we do this push and press, and then a breath out. Or it could be that you just focus on the movement. Just let your breathing do its own thing. Perfect. Okay, let's do one more with each respective hand lifting overhead. I know mine are disappearing out of frame. It doesn't matter. This is my last one. And once again, let the hands melt away. Have a little shake. We'll build some rotation in. We're going to do Y's out, but we'll use a variation where both hands gesture in the same direction in which we're looking. We're going to look over our right shoulder first of all. And as we do so, both hands lift up to gesture in that direction. And then we let the hands relax. We come back and we turn and we look to the left in a similar fashion before turning back. Very simple. One side, then the other. Once again, it's a movement, but if you feel comfortable, you could have a breath in as we turn and look, and then a breath out as we come back, and then another breath in as we turn and look to the other side, and then breathing out as we come back, if that feels comfortable to do so. But again, don't force things. It's the very opposite of what we want to achieve. I'm going to do one more to each side. Excellent. Okay, let me take this top off. Okay, one more kind of rotation and a bit of a stretch, and then we'll get into our little Tai Chi form. So if you're standing up with me, we're going to see if we can start with our hands on our tailbones, okay? If you sat down, start with your hands on tops of your thighs. I'll demonstrate this sat down in a little moment. Let me turn away from the camera again. So starting with both hands on the tailbone if possible, and then the Right hand is going to lift up and I'm going to follow with my head until that hand goes overhead. And then I'm simply going to bring it back down. Just like that. Back to where it came. And then my left hand is released. It travels upwards until it gets to the very top, and then bring that one down again, following with the head and the eyes all the way down, so we end up looking down. Here we go again. Right hand up overhead, and then back down. Swapping to the left side. Called plucking stars from the sky. So we can imagine we bring some stars down to earth. Let me just do that sat down. But we'll build our little extension into this movement. So here we go. Let me sit down. I'll face the camera this time. So I can start with the hands on the tops of my thighs or on my knees, or I could have them hanging loosely if you've got space either side of you. So I'm just dropping the right hand a little bit and then just letting it travel upwards overhead. So if you're sat down and you've got room to do so, it's a nice movement. It can come back to rest. And then the same on the left side. And then back down. Just like so. Okay, so let's do a little progression, a bit of an extension. Just be mindful of this one. Don't overdo it. Don't turn it into a big stretch. Still keep within a reasonably comfortable range of motion. Basically, we're going to be pushing up a bit more strongly with that top hand, whichever one it is, and we're going to be looking over the opposite shoulder. So if the right hand goes up, I'm going to be looking over my left, and you'll get a bit of a stretch all through the right side. So again, I'll do it seated and then I'll stand up in a moment. So here we go. Right hand lifts up. I'm following it up. And then it pushes up. So I start to push upward. And as I do so, I look over my left shoulder and down to the ground. And you get a bit of a stretch, or even quite a bit of a stretch. And then you have to let that stretch go. And then bring everything back down again, just like we did before. Okay, left side. Hand travels up and we follow its rise above. And then I'm pushing. I've been to push and look over the right shoulder down behind me. And again, we get a long stretch through that left side and then drop the hand down and follow it down. Okay, so you can probably feel why I've cautioned you not to push too strongly. Okay, let me stand up just for those people who are standing up. Okay, I'll do it with my back facing the camera so you can see from this angle. So here's the right hand rising up again. And then I'm pushing strongly, looking down and behind me on the left as I push up. Long stretch and then unwind. Quite a strong movement. Last time, left side. Up overhead. And then we're pushing, extending, looking over the right, and then slowly, slowly unwinding and back down. Fab. Good job. Oh, right, that's better. So again, it's almost a very intuitive stretch. So it's quite a nice one to build into your day, especially if you end up sat down for very long periods of time. Okay. So let's change tack. Introducing this form, Tai Chi form from Sun Style. We've got a parcel, we've got curtains or single whip as the movement is called, and then we've got that wave hands movement that we practiced right at the very beginning. Once again, I'm going to do this seated and standing. I'll start standing. I'm going to come a bit closer because I don't need to be too far away from the camera. I'll do some various angles as well in a moment, but for now, I'll be at a kind of quarter angle. So we're going to start off, just follow along, picking up a parcel. And then dropping it down and in towards us. Pick it up again. Then just gently push forward. Then we draw it back one last time. And then that parcel, if I turn to face the camera, begins to push the hands apart. And we get to about shoulder width, just about there. And then I squeeze it back to its original size and shape. And I'm going to push my two palms forward. I'm going to find two curtains. You remember those curtains? I'm going to open them wide, keep the palms forward, but I'm looking over the left hand or over the fingertips of the left hand. And then I'm going to draw those curtains to a close. As I do so, remember that table? The right hand, almost said left, but right hand finds the table. And we're in that wave hands position where we were at the beginning. Turn a little bit to the left because that's the direction indicated by the hand. Swap hands and then do a little turn to the right with the right hand on top. That's it. Swap hands. Turn back to the left. Swap hands. Turn to the right. That's the second cycle. Turn to the left again. One more time. Swap hands. Back to the right for the last time. This right hand's going to drop, but it's going to brush the tabletop, pick up, and we find our second parcel. And we're just going to let that one expand, shoulder width, and then we're going to squeeze it back to its original size and shape. And then I'm just pushing my hands forward, popping my parcel down, and that will do. That gets us halfway. Excuse me. Let me have a little drink of tea. Okay, I'm going to sit down, but I'm going to turn away from the camera at about a quarter angle. So hopefully you can see hands, but also get a sense of being able to follow along. Okay, so if you are sat down with me, hands can start on the tops of the knees or thighs, or even hanging loosely by the sides if you've got room. If you're still standing up, just start as we did before. Okay, here we go. Follow along. First of all, here's our parcel. Bring it down and in and up. A little push away. And then bring it back towards ourselves. And then let that parcel push the hands apart. It should feel like they get pushed away. And then at some point, just before we get too wide, we squeeze back with some gentle resistance. Turn the palms, find those curtains. Open those curtains wide. And if you remember from last time, we look across the fingertips of the left hand. And then we draw those curtains to a close. But as we do so, right hand is dropping down until it finds that tabletop. Left hand on the curtains. turn to the left, swap those hands, turn to the right. So we do 3 complete cycles. That's the first cycle. We head back to the left, turn to the right. That's the second cycle. And then we turn to the left again for the last time. Swap hands, turn to the right. That's our third cycle. And as we drop that right hand, brush the table, bring it back up to catch another parcel. Let that parcel expand and contract. And then we're pushing that parcel away and putting it down. We could imagine that we put it down on our table. Okay. One more time, but this time I'll stand up, but I'll do that same angle. And then we might add on the rest that brings us all the way back to where we started. So we'll end up doing another single whip, another set of wave hands, and then bringing everything to a close with a final parcel. Okay. So here we go. Here's my right shoulder, and just make sure I've got a reasonable angle. Ready? Here we go. Parcel time. Try to keep the shoulders relaxed as we lift our parcel up and then down, up in front of the chest, push away slightly, bring it back, and then here's our first opening and closing movement as the parcel expands, and then squeezing back, and then pushing the palms forward for our first open of the curtains. Only this time we look to the left over the top of the fingers. Close those curtains. The right hand is finding that tabletop. And we're ready for wave hands. A little turn to the left. A swap of hands. A turn to the right. And a swap of hands. That's the first cycle done. Swapping hands on the left. Heading back to the right. As we swap hands, that's the second cycle. Swapping hands to turn back to the right. And this time a right hand brushes the tabletop. We come up for our second open and close movement. And instead of finishing here, we push the palms forward and we find our curtains again. We open them wide, just like we did last time, but this time we look over the fingertips of the right hand. So it's called single whip, looking right. As we close those curtains, I'm going to turn to a different angle, left shoulder. It's the left hand that finds the table, right hand on the curtains. And then I'm turning to the right, swapping hands, heading to the left, and I'm doing another 3 cycles of hands waving in clouds. Really doesn't matter how often or how many you do. There's no golden rules. The only rule is that we're going to end up finishing on the left side. So this is turning to the right, heading to the left for the last time. And just like we did before, the left hand will brush the table, pick up. We're going to do our third and final open and close movement. Squeeze back. And then we push the fingers forward to finish. And that is our symmetrical little sun style form, comprised of just 3 movements. We've got the opening and closing movement. We've got the single whip movement. And we've got the wave hands movement. So we'll revisit that next week. We'll see if we can put some weight shift in and maybe even a step or two for some people. But for now, see if you can review the video when I get it uploaded, or when it gets uploaded by Limb Power, I should say, and see if you can have a review. Okay, I'm keeping an eye on the clock. I'm going to come a bit closer and sit back down again to join people seated. And let's finish with our very simple 2-sequence Tai Chi form, Li form. Gather celestial energy, starry skies above. Seated or standing, we're going to pick the hands up. Again, let's imagine we find that tabletop first of all. Then we look up, and as we do so, the hands rise as well. Overhead, look at the stars, and then bring some stars down to life, down to earth. Gather those stars. Hold on to them for a moment. Then let those stars go. Let them fly away. Pick the hands up to either side. Take an imaginary blanket called the blanket of the earth, because it's now called Gather Earth's Energy, and we cross in front of the chest, touch our collarbones, and then we let that blanket fall away as well. Now my hands have disappeared, but we're going to pick up again to gather celestial energy for a second time. Find our table, looking up, lifting my hands. Bring those stars back down to earth. Gather them up. Hang on to them for a while. Let them go. Pick the hands up to take our blanket. And then we're going to envelop ourselves in that blanket, touching the collarbones. And then letting that blanket fall away. Simple. I think we should do it one more to kind of do a nice round of 3, so to speak. So here we go. Pick the hands up. Looking up towards the stars. Could be a breath in, even if you wish. Bring those stars down. Gather them up. Let them go. Take our blanket of the earth and wrap yourself in it. And then just relax and let everything go. Some to let go. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully you've enjoyed those movements and that little sun style form. So next week will be our final session before our break. I will put a message in the WhatsApp group as well, just as a little reminder. But just bear in mind, we're not here on Thursday, the 21st of March. So I'm going to wish you a good evening. I will stop the recording. If anyone has any questions, please do fire away, or any comments. Or if you want
that was lovely.